I spent 12 years telling my wife she wasn't smart enough to do anything real, that her job was laundry and the cat, that I was the brains of the family. Then one night, I'm watching this brilliant Netflix series, and I see the writer's name in the credits, L.K. Ross. Next morning, my wife turns her laptop screen toward me. "That's me," she says. "I've been writing for 6 years. I make $110,000 per episode, and season 2? That's all about you." The entire country knew what a joke I was. Everyone except me. My name is David Marcus Holloway. I'm 45 years old. I work in advertising. Senior Creative Director at Morrison & Blake, one of the top agencies in Los Angeles. I make $230,000 a year, which is good money by most standards, though not spectacular in LA. I've always been the smart one, the successful one, the one people listen to at dinner parties. My wife, ex-wife now I should say, is Laura Kim Ross. When we met, she was 26 and working as a receptionist at a law firm. Pretty girl, quiet, Korean American, second generation, grew up in Orange County. She had an English degree from UC Irvine, which I used to joke about. "What are you going to do with that?" I'd say. "Teach high school? Proofread my emails?" She'd smile, never argued, just smiled and went back to whatever she was doing. We got married when I was 33 and she was 28. It was a small wedding. Her parents didn't have much money, and I was still climbing the ladder at the agency. We honeymooned in Mexico, came home to a one-bedroom apartment in Culver City, and started building what I thought was going to be a partnership. Except it wasn't a partnership. It was me talking and her listening. Me deciding and her following. Me succeeding and her existing. I didn't see it that way at the time. I thought I was being a good husband, providing, leading, making the hard decisions so she didn't have to worry her pretty little head about complicated things like mortgages and investment portfolios and career strategy. She quit the receptionist job 6 months after we got married. I told her it made sense. My salary could cover us, and frankly, answering phones wasn't exactly a career. She agreed, said she wanted to focus on making our home comfortable. And she did. She was good at it. The house was always clean. Dinner was always ready. She never complained, never asked for anything, never caused problems. She was, I thought, the perfect wife. Quiet, agreeable, content. It never occurred to me that maybe she was quiet because I never shut up long enough to let her speak. The belittling didn't start overnight. It was gradual. A joke here, a comment there, little things that seemed harmless in the moment, but looking back now, formed a pattern so toxic I'm embarrassed I didn't see it. It started with the small stuff. We'd be at dinner with friends and someone would ask Laura about her day. She'd start to answer and I'd interrupt. She organized the pantry. Riveting stuff. Everyone would laugh, Laura would smile, the conversation would move on. Or we'd be at a party and someone would mention a book they'd read. Laura would light up. She loved books, always had one on the nightstand, and she'd start to share her thoughts. I'd cut in. "Laura reads romance novels, you know, the ones with shirtless guys on the cover." More laughter. She'd laugh too, even though I could see something flicker in her eyes. Something that looked like hurt, but disappeared so quickly I convinced myself I'd imagined it. The thing is, I thought I was being charming. Funny. The life of the party. People laughed at my jokes, so they must be good jokes, right? And Laura never objected, never pulled me aside and said, "Hey, that hurt," so she must be fine with it. I was the guy everyone wanted at their dinner parties, the one with the quick wit, the perfect comeback, the ability to keep the conversation flowing. If that meant making my wife the butt of a few jokes, well, that's what married people do, right? That's what I told myself. The comments got worse over the years, more pointed, more cruel. There was the time we were at my boss's house for a holiday party. Laura had spent all day getting ready, bought a new dress, done her hair and makeup. She looked beautiful. I should have told her that. Instead, when someone complimented her dress, I said, "She bought it at Target. Can you believe it? My wife at a senior VP's house wearing Target." Laura's smile had frozen. The woman who'd complimented her, Janet from accounting, had looked uncomfortable. "I think it's lovely," Janet had said quietly. "Oh, it's fine," I'd said with a wave. "I keep telling her I make enough money for her to shop somewhere nice, but she's got that immigrant frugality, you know?" I'd laughed. Her parents raised her to pinch pennies. Laura had excused herself, went to the bathroom, came back 20 minutes later with fresh makeup and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'd thought she was being sensitive. Women, right? Always worried about what they're wearing. I didn't realize I'd humiliated her in front of my colleagues, made her sound cheap, made her parents, who'd sacrificed everything to give her opportunities, sound like penny pinchers. Or there was the time Jacob's teacher called to discuss his progress. He was 8, struggling with math but excelling in reading and writing. Laura and I sat in the tiny classroom chairs while Mrs. Patterson showed us Jacob's work. "He's quite gifted with language," she'd said. "His stories are remarkably creative for his age. I'd encourage you to nurture that talent." Laura had leaned forward, excited. "Really? He's been writing these little books at home." "Books?" I'd interrupted, laughing. "They're 3 pages long, with pictures." "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." Mrs. Patterson had looked at me. "Actually, Mr. Holloway, at his age, any sustained creative writing is impressive. Most second graders can't." "Yeah, but it's not math, is it?" I'd said. "It's not science. It's drawing and stories. My wife has an English degree, and you see where that got her." I'd gestured vaguely. "I'd rather he focus on practical skills, things that'll actually get him into a good college." Laura had gone very still beside me. Mrs. Patterson had chosen her words carefully. "I think there's value in all forms of learning. But of course, you know your son best." We'd left the meeting. Laura had been quiet in the car. "You didn't have to say that," she'd finally said. "About my degree." "What? I'm just being realistic. You know I'm right. I have a degree from a good university. I graduated summa cum laude in English," I'd said, like that settled it. "Laura, come on, be honest. What did you do with that degree? You were a receptionist. Then you quit to be a housewife. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not exactly a career." She'd turned to look out the window, hadn't said another word the rest of the drive home. That night, after Jacob was in bed, I'd found her in the kitchen, crying. Hey, I'd said, genuinely confused. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Come on, tell me." "It's nothing, David. I'm fine." "You're clearly not fine if you're crying." She'd wiped her eyes. I thought maybe you'd be proud of Jacob, of his writing." "I am proud of him. He's a great kid. But you don't think his writing matters." "It's not that it doesn't matter. It's just not practical. The world doesn't need more writers, Laura. It needs engineers, doctors, people who do real work." "Real work," she'd repeated flatly. "You know what I mean." She'd nodded, turned back to the dishes. "Yeah, I know what you mean. I'd thought that was the end of it. Thought we'd moved past it." I didn't know she'd gone upstairs that night and written the entire conversation down, word for word, in a journal she kept hidden in the back of the office closet. "Laura's job is the laundry and the cat. I'm the brains of the family." I said that one a lot. At barbecues, at work events when spouses were invited, at family dinners. It became my go-to line when someone asked what Laura did. "What does your wife do?" "She's a professional homemaker," I'd say with a grin. "Laundry, cooking, keeping the cat alive. I'm the brains. She's the heart, I guess." People would laugh politely. Laura would smile. But her parents didn't laugh. Her mother, a sweet woman named Sun Hee, who'd worked 2 jobs to put Laura through college, would look at her daughter with concern. Her father, a quiet man who'd run a small grocery store for 30 years, would tighten his jaw. One Thanksgiving, Sun Hee pulled me aside in the kitchen. "David," she'd said carefully, "the way you talk about Laura, it concerns me." "What do you mean?" "The jokes about her not being smart, not having a career." "Oh, that's just my sense of humor. Laura knows I'm kidding." "Does she?" "Of course. If it bothered her, she'd say something." Sun Hee had looked at me for a long moment. "My daughter is very smart. Smarter than you know." "I know she's smart." "No, you don't. You think she's simple, decorative, but she's not. She sees everything. She remembers everything." I'd laughed uncomfortably. "Okay, good to know." "I'm serious, David. Be careful how you treat her. You might not get a second chance." I'd brushed it off. Her mother was just being overprotective, defensive about her daughter not having a big career. If only I'd listened. The worst moment, the one I'm most ashamed of, happened at Jacob's 11th birthday party. We'd invited 20 kids and their parents. Our backyard was full of people, noise, chaos. Laura had spent 2 days preparing food, decorating, organizing games. Everything looked perfect. Jacob was opening presents. He got to one from Laura's parents, a journal and a nice pen. "A journal?" one of the other dads had said. "For an 11-year-old boy?" "Jacob likes to write," Laura had said. "Stories, poems. He's very creative." I'd laughed. "Yeah, his mom's trying to turn him into a writer. Next she'll have him wearing a beret and drinking espresso." Everyone had laughed. Even Jacob had smiled, though I could see he was embarrassed. "I keep telling her," I'd continued, "if he wants to be like Mom, he won't accomplish anything. Won't even have a name of his own." The laughter had died down awkwardly. A few people had glanced at Laura. She'd stood up, said she needed to get more drinks from inside. She'd stayed inside for almost 20 minutes. When she came back out, her eyes were red, but she was smiling. "Sorry," she'd said brightly, "couldn't find the lemonade." I'd known she'd been crying, but I'd pretended not to notice. Easier that way. That night, after everyone left and Jacob was in bed, Laura had sat at the kitchen table, writing in her own journal, the one I never paid attention to. "What are you writing?" I'd asked. "Nothing." "Come on, tell me." "Just thoughts." "About the party?" "About a lot of things." I'd poured myself a scotch. "It was a good party. I think Jacob had fun." "Yes," she'd said, not looking up from her writing. "He did." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." "Laura," she'd finally looked at me. "Do you really think I have no name?" "What?" "You said it earlier, that if Jacob wants to be like me, he won't have a name of his own." "Oh, come on. I was joking." "Were you?" "Yes, obviously." She'd closed the journal. "What's my name, David?" "Laura." "My full name?" "Laura Kim Ross." "And what is that name worth?" I'd stared at her. "What kind of question is that?" "You tell people I have no name, that I'm nothing, that my life has no value." "I never said that." "You've said it 100 times, in 100 different ways." "Laura, you're taking this way too seriously." "Am I?" She'd stood up. "Or are you just finally paying attention?" She'd left the room, taken her journal with her. I'd finished my scotch, convinced myself she was overreacting, that she was being emotional, hormonal, whatever. I'd been wrong about everything, and she'd been writing it all down, every word, every dismissal, every moment I'd made her feel like she was nothing, building a case against me. one insult at a time. I genuinely believed she wasn't capable of more, that her degree in English was worthless, that her decision to stay home meant she lacked ambition, drive, intelligence. I believed it so deeply that I said it in front of our son, in front of strangers, in front of anyone who'd listen. I made her smallness a running joke in our marriage, and she smiled through all of it. Because what else could she do? I was destroying her, piece by piece, comment by comment, and she was letting me. Or so I thought. What I didn't understand was that she wasn't letting me destroy her. She was documenting it. Every cruel joke, every dismissive comment, every moment of humiliation. She was turning me into a character, the villain in her story. And I had no idea. Looking back, there were signs, clues I was too self-absorbed to notice. About 6 years into our marriage, Laura started spending more time in the spare bedroom we used as an office. She'd be in there for hours, door closed, typing away on an old laptop. "What are you working on?" I'd ask, half interested, mostly mocking. "Just some writing," she'd say. "Like a diary?" "Something like that." I'd laugh. "Well, don't quit your day job." "Oh, wait, you don't have one." She'd smile, turn back to the screen, keep typing. I assumed she was doing what bored housewives do, writing in a journal, maybe working on some terrible novel she'd never finish. It didn't matter. It kept her occupied and out of my hair. Then, about 4 years ago, she started getting packages, small boxes from Amazon. I'd see them by the door when I got home from work. "What's all this?" I'd ask. "Books, research materials." "For what?" "My writing project." "You're still doing that?" "Laura, honey, writing isn't a career. It's a hobby, like knitting." She'd nod, say nothing, take the boxes upstairs. The packages kept coming. Books on screenwriting, story structure, character development, books about the TV industry, about showrunners, about breaking into Hollywood. I noticed, but didn't care. Let her have her little fantasy. Everyone needs a hobby. Then, 3 years ago, she asked me something strange. "David, can I use your name or part of it?" "For what?" "I'm setting up some accounts. For my writing, I need a pen name." I'd laughed so hard I'd nearly spilled my scotch. "A pen name? Laura, you're not J.K. Rowling. But sure, use whatever you want. Hell, use my social security number while you're at it." She'd thanked me, quietly, the way she always did. I'd forgotten about it by the next day. Around the same time, she started leaving the house more. Coffee shops, the library. Writing meetings, she called them. Meetings? With who? Other writers, a group I found online. "A writers group?" I'd grinned. "What, you all sit around reading your bad poetry to each other?" "Something like that." She'd leave for 3-4 hours at a time, come home with notebooks full of scribbles I never bothered to look at. I thought it was cute. Pathetic, maybe, but cute. She was trying to have something of her own, some little creative outlet that made her feel important. I was happy she had it. Meant she wasn't bothering me about being lonely or unfulfilled. Then, 2 years ago, she started dressing better. Not dramatically, Laura was never flashy, but better. Nicer jeans, blouses that actually fit. She got her hair done professionally instead of trimming it herself in the bathroom. "What's the occasion?" I'd asked. "No occasion, just felt like it." "Well, you look nice. Going somewhere?" "Just my writing group." I'd shrugged, didn't think twice about it. If she wanted to look nice for her little writer friends, fine by me. Last year, she bought a new laptop, a MacBook Pro, top of the line, $1,500. I'd seen the charge on our joint credit card and confronted her. What the hell is this? $1,500 for a laptop? Laura, you don't need a computer that expensive to write in your diary. She'd looked at me calmly. I'm making money now. I'll pay you back. Making money? From what? My writing. I'd laughed. Laura, honey, nobody makes money from writing. Not real money. Not unless you're Stephen King. I sold something, she'd said. A script. To a production company. A script? Like for a movie? TV. I'd waved it off. Okay, so someone bought your little script. What did they pay you? $100? More than that. 200? She'd hesitated. A bit more. Well, congratulations. Buy yourself something nice with your script money. But next time, ask me before you drop $1,500 on a computer. She'd nodded, said she would. Kept the laptop. I'd forgotten about it within a week. That's the thing I realize now. She was building a whole life, a whole career right in front of me, and I was so convinced she was incapable of anything significant that I didn't even bother to pay attention. It was a Thursday night, October, about 6 months ago. Jacob was at a friend's house. Laura was in the office, door closed, working on whatever she was working on. I was on the couch with a scotch and the remote, scrolling through Netflix, looking for something good. I'd seen ads for this new series, The Marriage Plot, drama, dark comedy. Critics were calling it brilliant. 9.2 on IMDb, nominated for a bunch of awards. I clicked play. The opening scene hooked me immediately. A married couple at a dinner party. The husband making cutting jokes at his wife's expense. The guests laughing. The wife smiling. But the camera lingering on her face just long enough to show the pain underneath. Damn, I'd muttered. This is good. I watched the whole first episode, then the second, then the third. It was sharp, funny in a dark, uncomfortable way. The kind of show that makes you cringe because it's hitting too close to home. The husband in the show was insufferable, arrogant, condescending. He treated his wife like she was decoration, like her thoughts didn't matter, her dreams were silly, her existence was purely functional. And the wife, God, the wife was fascinating. She said almost nothing for the first 3 episodes, just smiled, endured, watched. But you could see her mind working, see her cataloging every insult, every dismissal, every moment of cruelty. By episode 4, she'd started keeping a journal, writing down everything he said, everything he did, building a case against him without him even knowing. By episode 6, she'd hired a lawyer, filed for divorce, taken half of everything. And in the final scene of the season, she handed him a copy of a book she'd written, a novel, based on their marriage, a bestseller. I needed you to be this awful, she told him, so I'd have something to write about. The screen went black, credits rolled, and there it was, in white text on black, written by L.K. Ross. I didn't think anything of it, not yet. I finished my scotch, stretched, thought about watching another episode, but decided to call it a night. I went upstairs. The office door was still closed. I knocked. Laura, you coming to bed? In a bit, she called back. What you working on? Just finishing something up. I shrugged, went to bed. Fell asleep thinking about that show, about how perfectly it captured the dynamic of certain marriages. How uncomfortable it made me feel watching that husband demean his wife over and over. The next morning, I came down to the kitchen. Laura was already up, sitting at the table with her new MacBook, typing. I poured coffee, made a comment. Still playing writer? She didn't look up. Something like that. You should watch this show I found last night, The Marriage Plot. Really well written. Maybe you can learn a thing or two. That's when she stopped typing. Slowly, she turned the laptop screen toward me. On the screen was a Netflix dashboard, creator portal, analytics, royalty statements, and at the top, in bold letters, L.K. Ross, creator and head writer, The Marriage Plot. I stared at the screen, looked at her, looked back at the screen. That's you? She nodded. L.K. Ross, Laura Kim Ross. You said I could use your name, she said calmly. Or part of it. I used my maiden name and your last name. Ross Holloway was too long, so I shortened it. My brain was trying to process. Failing. You wrote that show? Yes. The one I just watched? Yes. The one that's nominated for Emmys? 4 nominations. We won 2. I sat down. Hard. The chair scraped against the floor. You've been writing for Netflix? For 6 years, 3 different shows. The Marriage Plot is my 3rd and most successful. 6 years? Yes. And you didn't tell me? She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. I did tell you, multiple times. You laughed. I tried to remember. Couldn't. How much? I swallowed. How much are they paying you? Per episode? Yeah. 110,000. The room tilted. $110,000 per episode? Yes. How many episodes in a season? 10. I did the math. Couldn't believe it. That's over $1 million per season. Season 3 is already greenlit, plus residuals from seasons 1 and 2, plus the international deals, plus the streaming rights. She turned the laptop back toward herself, kept typing. Why didn't you tell me? I finally managed. She looked up, met my eyes. I did. You didn't listen. You never listen. But do you remember when I told you I sold a script? You asked if they paid me $100. I did remember that, vaguely. You could have corrected me. I could have, but would you have believed me? Or would you have laughed harder? I had no answer. She stood up, closed the laptop. I started writing to stay sane, she said. Every time you made a joke about me being stupid, about being just a housewife, about having no name of my own, I wrote it down. I kept a journal, pages and pages of every dismissive comment, every belittling joke, every moment you made me feel worthless. She picked up her coffee, took a sip. And then I realized something. This was good material, really good. So I turned it into a script, sold it. It became a pilot, then a series. The Marriage Plot, I whispered. Season 1 was loosely based on us. Season 2? She smiled. Season 2 is all you. Every episode, every scene. I changed the names, obviously, and the setting. But the husband? His personality? The things he says? She looked at me. That's you, David. Word for word. 70 million people watched season 2, and they all know exactly what kind of man you are. I sat there in the kitchen for 20 minutes after she went upstairs. Just sat, staring at nothing. My wife. My quiet, agreeable, supposedly simple wife had built a multi-million-dollar career writing about what an asshole I was. And I'd had no idea. I grabbed my phone, opened Netflix, went back to The Marriage Plot. This time, I watched differently. Episode 1, Season 2. The husband comes home from work. His wife has made dinner. He barely acknowledges it. Smells good. What is it? Coq au vin. I've been working on it all day. Coq au vin? Fancy. Trying to impress someone? That was my line. I'd said that exact thing 3 months ago when Laura made coq au vin for a dinner party. The camera lingered on the wife's face. She'd spent 6 hours making that dish. The husband didn't know, didn't care, just made a sarcastic comment and moved on. In the show, the wife smiled, served dinner, said nothing. But the camera showed what I'd never bothered to see, the way her hands trembled slightly as she set down his plate, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes, the way she excused herself after dinner and cried in the bathroom while he watched TV, oblivious. Had Laura cried after I said that? I didn't know. I'd never checked. Episode 2. The husband is at a work event with his wife. A colleague asks her what she does. Oh, she doesn't work, the husband says before she can answer. She's living the dream. No alarm clocks, no deadlines, no stress. I'd said that, verbatim, at Morrison and Blake's holiday party last year. I'd said it while holding a champagne flute, smiling like I'd made a great joke. In the show, the colleague looked uncomfortable. The wife's smile froze, and for just a moment, maybe 2 seconds of screen time, you could see everything she was thinking. I work harder than you. I run this household. I manage every detail of your life. I remember your mother's birthday. I pack your son's lunches. I keep track of bills and appointments and groceries and dry cleaning. You call that nothing? You call that not working. The show didn't say any of that out loud, but you felt it. Every viewer felt it. In the Reddit threads, people were livid. That husband is the worst, someone had written. Imagine telling your wife she doesn't work. Imagine being that clueless. I'd been that clueless. Episode 3. The couple is having coffee with another couple. The husband tells a story about how his wife forgot to pay a bill and the electricity got shut off. Can you believe it? One job, pay the bills on time, and she can't even handle that. I'd told that story at a barbecue to 6 different people, while Laura stood right there with a plate of potato salad she'd made from scratch that morning. In the show, the wife interrupted. I didn't forget. The check was mailed on time. The company lost it. I called them 3 times to sort it out. The husband waved her off. Whatever. Point is, lights went out for 4 hours. Middle of summer. Hottest day of the year. I came home from work to a dark house. I was here too, the wife said quietly. In the dark. With your son. He was scared. Yeah, well, maybe next time use autopay like I suggested 2 years ago. The other couple exchanged glances, uncomfortable. The wife said nothing more, but the camera caught her face, and you could see her filing it away. Another incident, another humiliation, another piece of evidence. I'd told that story exactly like that, and it had been Laura's 3rd time explaining the situation to me. The check had been mailed on time. The utility company had lost it. Laura had spent 2 hours on the phone fixing it. But in my version of the story, she'd just forgotten. Because that fit the narrative better, made the joke land better, made her look stupid, made me look like the long-suffering husband dealing with an incompetent wife. I kept watching, episode after episode. I couldn't stop. Episode 4. The husband is giving a toast at a friend's anniversary party. Marriage is tough, he says, grinning. My wife burned dinner twice last week. Twice! I told her, honey, there are instructions on the box. How do you burn pasta? Everyone laughs. The wife, sitting at a nearby table, smiles. But in close-up, you see her grip her wine glass a little tighter. In the show, after the party, the couple drives home in silence. Finally, the wife speaks. I didn't burn the pasta. What? Last week. You said I burned dinner twice. I didn't. The smoke detector went off because you turned the heat up too high on the stove and walked away. I turned it down, but it had already started smoking. The husband shrugs. Okay, so technically you didn't burn it, but it's funnier to say you did. Funnier for who? For everyone. It's just a joke, honey. It's not just a joke. You told 50 people I can't follow instructions on a box. You made me sound incompetent. Jesus, you're sensitive. Since when do you care what people think? I don't care what people think. I care what you think. And apparently you think I'm an idiot. The husband sighs, turns up the radio. This again? I'm not doing this tonight. I'm tired. End scene. I remembered that drive home, that exact conversation. Laura had tried to explain. I'd shut her down, turned up the radio, refused to engage, because I was tired, because I didn't want to deal with her sensitivity, because it was easier to dismiss her than to consider that maybe, possibly, I was wrong. Episode 5. The husband forgets his wife's birthday. Not in a cute, oh honey, I'm so sorry, let me make it up to you way. He just forgets. Comes home, eats dinner, watches TV, goes to bed. Never mentions it. The wife says nothing, but the camera shows her face, and you can see everything she's not saying. Later, after he's asleep, she goes downstairs, sits at the kitchen table, opens her laptop, and starts writing. The camera zooms in on the screen. She's writing a scene, a fictional scene, about a woman whose husband forgets her birthday. In the scene she's writing, the fictional wife doesn't say anything either, just smiles, serves dinner, goes to bed. But then the fictional wife does something else. She starts keeping a list. Every forgotten occasion, every dismissive comment, every moment of neglect. One day, the fictional wife writes, he'll ask me why I left, and I'll hand him this list, and he won't be able to say he didn't know. The scene ended. I sat there on my couch, scotch forgotten in my hand, realizing what I was watching. I was watching Laura's process, her method, the way she turned pain into art, the way she documented everything I did, said, forgot. I'd forgotten Laura's birthday 2 years ago, just completely forgot. She never said anything, made dinner, smiled, went to bed. I'd assumed she didn't care. She'd cared. She'd just learned that saying something wouldn't change anything, so she'd written it down instead. Episode 6. The husband and wife are at dinner with his parents. His mother asks the wife about her day. Oh, Laura doesn't do much, the husband says. She's got it easy. Stay home, watch some TV, maybe fold some laundry. His mother frowns. That's not, Mom, I'm kidding, relax. But his mother doesn't relax. She looks at the wife, who's staring at her plate. Laura, the mother says gently, how are you? Really? The wife looks up, forces a smile. I'm fine, really. Are you happy? The husband laughs. Of course she's happy. She's got everything she needs. Right, honey? The wife nods. Right. But the mother doesn't look convinced. Later, in the car, the husband's phone rings. It's his mother. You need to be kinder to your wife, she says. What? Mom, I'm plenty kind. No, you're not. The way you talk to her, about her, it's cruel. It's called a sense of humor. Maybe you've heard of it? It's called being mean. And one day she's going to leave you, and you'll deserve it. The husband hangs up, irritated. What's wrong? the wife asks. Nothing. My mother being dramatic. End scene. That conversation happened. My mother had called me after a family dinner, told me I was being cruel to Laura. I'd dismissed her, called her dramatic, hung up. Laura had been sitting right there, heard the whole thing. She'd asked what was wrong. I'd said nothing, and we'd never spoken about it again. Episode 7. The husband and wife are at a parent-teacher conference for their son. The teacher mentions that the son has been writing poetry. Poetry, the husband laughs. That's not going to get him into college. He needs to focus on math, science, real subjects. The wife starts to say something. The husband talks over her. We'll make sure he drops the poetry class. Right, honey? The wife nods. Silent. But in the show, the camera follows the wife after the meeting, shows her sitting in the car, waiting for her husband to finish talking to the principal, shows her pulling out her phone, texting her son. Your poetry is beautiful. Keep writing, no matter what anyone says. The son texts back. Dad thinks it's stupid. The wife hesitates, then types, Your dad doesn't always understand things that matter. I'd done that. Exact same scenario. Jacob had wanted to join the creative writing club. I'd shut it down. Laura had tried to suggest maybe it was okay, maybe creativity was important. I'd talked over her, made the decision, because I was the brains of the family. But I'd never known she'd texted Jacob afterward, never known she'd encouraged him to keep writing in secret, never knew she'd been undermining my authority, not out of spite, but out of love for our son. Episode 8. The husband is drunk at a work party. He's telling a story to a group of colleagues about how his wife once got lost driving to a restaurant they'd been to dozens of times. She called me crying, saying she couldn't find it. I'm like, honey, it's on Main Street. There's one Main Street. How lost can you be? Everyone laughs. The wife, standing a few feet away with a group of other spouses, overhears. One of the other wives approaches her. Are you okay? The wife smiles. I'm fine. He talks about you like that a lot. It's just his sense of humor. Is it? The wife doesn't answer. Later, in the car ride home, the husband is still drunk, rambling. Great party. Did you have fun? The wife says nothing, just drives. What's wrong? Nothing. Come on, you've been weird all night. I wasn't lost that day, the wife says quietly. What? The day you told everyone about. I wasn't lost. The restaurant had moved. I told you that. You didn't listen. The husband laughs. Okay, so you weren't lost, but it's funnier to say you were. Right, funnier. Jesus, Laura, he catches himself. In the show, the character's name wasn't Laura, but I'd said it. In real life, in that exact conversation, I'd said her name like that, with exasperation, with contempt. You're really going to be mad about this? It's a joke. It's not a joke. You lied. To make me look stupid, to get a laugh. Oh my God, fine, I'm sorry, I lied. Happy? The wife pulls into the driveway, parks, turns off the engine. No, she says, I'm not happy. She gets out, goes inside, leaves him sitting in the car. End scene. I'd lived that scene, every word of it, and I'd thought she'd gotten over it, but she hadn't gotten over any of it. She'd just stopped telling me. By episode 10, I was nauseous. The season finale was devastating. The wife, who'd been silent and compliant for the entire season, finally speaks. She's hired a divorce lawyer. She's taking half of everything. And she's written a book about their marriage that's become a massive bestseller. You made me into nothing, she tells him, so I had to become something on my own. And the only way I could do that was to turn you into a character, a villain, the kind of husband every woman fears ending up with. I loved you, he protests. No, you loved having someone who didn't challenge you, someone you could feel superior to. That's not love. That's control. I never tried to control you. Every day, every joke, every time you talked over me or dismissed me or made me feel small, that was control. You controlled the narrative, made me believe I was nothing without you. But you stayed. For 12 years, you stayed. I stayed because I didn't know any better. And then I started writing. And I realized something. What? I'm a better writer than you are an advertiser. I'm smarter, more creative, more successful. I was always those things, but you convinced me I wasn't. You convinced me my only value was making your life comfortable. She walks out. He's left standing alone in their house, holding a copy of her book. The final shot is his face as he reads the dedication. To every woman who was told she wasn't enough. You are. He just couldn't see it. Fade to black. I closed the laptop, sat there, thought about the last 12 years, thought about every joke, every dismissal, every time I'd made Laura feel small, thought about how she'd smiled through all of it, how she'd never fought back, never argued, never made me feel like I was wrong. Because she hadn't needed to fight back. She'd just documented everything and turned it into art. And now, 70 million people knew exactly what kind of man I was. I went upstairs. She was in the bedroom, packing a suitcase. You're leaving? Yes. Where? I have an apartment in West Hollywood. I've had it for 6 months. I use it when I need to work late or meet with the writer's room. You have your own apartment? Yes. Jesus, Laura, what else don't I know? She zipped the suitcase, looked at me. Everything, David. You don't know anything about me because you never asked. You talked at me for 12 years and you never once asked who I actually was. You thought I was stupid, simple, content to just be your wife, your maid, your ego boost. I didn't. Yes, you did. And you know what? I let you think that because it gave me something to write about. Every cruel joke, every dismissive comment, it all went into the work. You were my muse, David, the perfect villain. She picked up the suitcase. I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will be in touch. You can stay in the house until it sells. After that, we split everything 50-50. California is a community property state, so that includes half of what I've earned from the shows. Half of? I did the math. That's millions. 4.2 million to be exact. Your share is 2.1 million. Plus half the house, half the retirement accounts, half of everything. You should be happy. You're about to become a very rich man. I don't want your money. Too bad. The law says you get it. She walked toward the door, stopped. Oh, and David? Season 3 starts shooting next month. It's about the divorce. Should be my best work yet. She left. I heard her car pull out of the driveway. And then I was alone in the house we'd shared for 12 years, realizing that the woman I'd thought I knew better than anyone was a complete stranger. The divorce papers arrived a week later. I hired a lawyer, a good one, expensive. He read through Laura's filing, looked up at me. Your wife is Laura Kim Ross? Yes. The Laura Kim Ross? The one who created the marriage plot? Yes. He whistled. Okay. So, first I have to tell you, you're entitled to half of what she earned during the marriage. That's California law, community property. I know. Do you have any idea how much that is? She told me. 4.2 million. My half is 2.1. Actually, he opened his laptop, I pulled her earnings records. It's higher than that. With residuals, international deals, and the sale of streaming rights, she's earned closer to 6.8 million over the last 4 years. I stared at him. Your share is 3.4 million. I should have felt relief. I was about to be rich, set for life. Instead, I felt sick. There's something else, my lawyer said carefully. What? She's requesting that you sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. You agree not to discuss your marriage publicly, not to do interviews, not to write a book or sell your story to any media outlets. Why would I do any of that? Because, he said slowly, Season 2 of The Marriage Plot comes out on Blu-ray next month with audio commentary. From what I understand, she's planning to discuss the real-life inspiration for the show, your marriage. She's going to tell everyone it's about me? Not by name, but she's implying it heavily. The press is already speculating. There are Reddit threads trying to figure out who the real husband is. He slid a paper across the desk. If you sign the NDA, she'll add an additional $1 million to your settlement. So $4.4 million total, and you stay anonymous. And if I don't? Then you get 3.4 and she's free to discuss the marriage openly, which means every detail of how you treated her, every joke, every dismissal, every cruelty becomes public knowledge. You'll be the most hated man in America. I thought about it. I could take the money and stay silent, or I could refuse, keep the slightly smaller amount, and risk becoming a public villain. Does she think I'm going to talk? I asked. She thinks you might, my lawyer said. Apparently, you've contacted several journalists already. I had. 3 of them. I tried to explain my side, tried to say it wasn't as bad as the show made it seem, that I'd loved Laura, that I'd just been joking around, that she'd never seemed unhappy. None of them had been interested. One had actually laughed. Mr. Holloway, your wife created one of the most acclaimed shows of the year based on your marriage. Nobody wants your side of the story. They want hers. I'd hung up. I'll sign, I told my lawyer. You're sure? What's the alternative? Spend the rest of my life being recognized as the asshole from The Marriage Plot? He nodded, drew up the papers. I signed. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. I moved out of the house. Laura bought me out, paid me $2.2 million for my half of the equity, plus the $4.4 from her earnings. I'm a multimillionaire now. I bought a condo in Santa Monica, quit my job at Morrison & Blake, didn't need it anymore. I should be happy. I should be relieved. Instead, I spend most days alone, watching TV, wondering how I got here. The hardest part wasn't losing Laura, it was losing respect. Everywhere I went, I could feel it. The looks, the whispers. Morrison & Blake asked me to resign 2 weeks after the divorce filing became public. They didn't say it was because of the show. They said it was restructuring. But I knew. My boss, a woman named Catherine, who I'd worked under for 8 years, called me into her office. David, this isn't easy to say. You're letting me go. We think it's best for everyone because of the show. She'd paused. Because clients have been asking questions. Because some of our female employees have expressed concerns. Concerns? About whether they can trust you to treat them with respect. I'd wanted to argue, wanted to say it was just a TV show, that it wasn't real, that I wasn't that guy. But I was that guy. The show proved it. I understand, I'd said. We'll give you 6 months severance and a good reference, as long as you don't make trouble. I'd signed the paperwork, cleaned out my desk, left the building for the last time. 3 colleagues said goodbye, out of 40 people I'd worked with for 8 years. 3. The rest avoided eye contact, whispered as I walked past. I heard one of them say it, Jenny from the design team. She thought I couldn't hear. Good riddance. Guy was always a dick. The Marriage Plot won 4 Emmys last month. Laura gave an acceptance speech. She thanked her writer's room, her producers, her son. She didn't mention me. But everyone knew. The internet had figured it out within weeks of the divorce filing. Someone had posted photos of us from Jacob's soccer games, matched them to descriptions in Laura's interviews. Reddit threads dissected every episode, comparing dialogue to things I'd actually said at public events. Remember when David Holloway spoke at that advertising conference in 2019? One commenter wrote, "He made a joke about his wife not being able to program the DVR. That's literally a scene in episode 3. Another, "I went to college with Laura. She was brilliant, like genuinely one of the smartest people I ever met. And this asshole convinced her she was nothing. Fuck that guy." I'd signed the NDA, so I couldn't respond. Couldn't defend myself. Couldn't explain. All I could do was watch as the world decided I was a monster. My friends stopped calling, the guys from work, the neighbors, the parents from Jacob's school. They all quietly distanced themselves. There was one exception, Mark, my friend from college. We'd known each other for 23 years. He called me a month after the divorce. "Hey man, just checking in." "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine." "Well, I'm a national joke, so there's that." "You're not a joke, David. You fucked up. There's a difference." "Everyone hates me." "Not everyone. I don't hate you." "But you watched the show." "I did." "And?" Mark had been quiet for a moment, and I recognized a lot of it. Things you said, things we all said, honestly, back in college, in our 20s. The way we talked about girls, about relationships, like we were so fucking clever. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I know, but you were. We were. And most of us grew out of it. You didn't. So what do I do now? You learn, you apologize, you become better. Laura won't talk to me. I'm not talking about Laura. I'm talking about Jacob, your son. He's watching all of this, watching how you react. You can either be the guy who doubles down and plays the victim, or you can be the guy who admits he was wrong and does better. I'd thought about that conversation a lot since then. Jacob still talks to me, but it's different now. He's polite, careful. He doesn't ask me for advice anymore. Doesn't tell me about his life. He's living with Laura in her new house in Los Feliz. Beautiful place. 4 bedrooms, modern kitchen, a yard with lemon trees. She bought it cash, $3.2 million. Jacob's room has floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk by the window, a typewriter, an actual vintage typewriter that Laura found at an estate sale. Mom thought I'd like it, he told me when I came to pick him up for our first post-divorce dinner. For my writing. You're writing? Yeah, I'm taking creative writing classes, and I'm working on a novel. A novel? You're 15. Mom says it doesn't matter how old you are. If you have a story, you should tell it. I'd nodded. Didn't know what to say. She's a good writer, Jacob continued. Like, really good. Have you seen the show? Yeah, I've seen it. It's incredible, Dad. The way she captures relationships, the dynamics, the way the wife character just sees everything, remembers everything. Yeah. Did you know Mom was writing before? I knew she was doing something. I didn't know it was, I gestured vaguely, that. Jacob had looked at me, really looked at me. You should have paid attention. I know. Like actually paid attention, not just assumed. I know, Jacob. Do you? Because in the show, the husband never really gets it, even at the end. He's sorry, but he doesn't actually understand what he did wrong. Is that what you think? That I don't understand? I think you're starting to, but it's too late for Mom. He'd been right. That dinner had been awkward. We'd tried to talk about normal things, school, soccer, his friends, but everything felt forced, like we were strangers trying to remember how to talk to each other. Mom says I can visit you whenever I want, Jacob had said at the end. That's good. But I don't think I want to, not right now. That had hurt, more than I expected. Why not? Because being around you reminds me of all the times you made her feel bad, all the jokes, all the ways you made her seem small. I watched that my whole life and thought it was normal. It's not normal, Dad. I'm sorry. Tell her that, not me. She won't talk to me. Then write her a letter. She likes letters. I'd tried. I'd written 7 drafts of a letter to Laura, each one longer than the last, trying to explain, trying to apologize, trying to make her understand that I'd loved her, that I'd never meant to hurt her, that I was sorry. But every draft read the same, hollow, self-serving, more about making myself feel better than actually taking responsibility. So I never sent any of them. Season 3 of The Marriage Plot premiered last week. It's about the divorce. The husband tries to claim he had no idea his wife was unhappy. He plays the victim, tells people she blindsided him. But the show reveals, slowly, that she'd tried to tell him, hundreds of times, in small ways, in quiet moments, in the gaps between his monologues. He just never listened. Episode 1 opens with the wife packing a suitcase. The husband comes home, sees her, and is shocked. You're leaving? Why? I told you why, 100 times. You never said you were unhappy. I said it every day. You just never heard me. That's not fair. I asked you to go to counseling. You said no. I asked you to stop making jokes about me in public. You said I was being sensitive. I asked you to listen. You talked over me. When? Always, David, always. In the show, the husband's name was different, but the dialogue, the exact words, were mine. From conversations I'd forgotten, conversations I'd dismissed as unimportant. But Laura had remembered, written them down, used them. I watched the first episode, turned it off halfway through. I couldn't do it. Couldn't watch my life, my failures, played out for millions of people. But I know what happens at the end. Laura told Jacob, and Jacob mentioned it to me. The wife moves on, buys a house, builds a life, surrounded by people who value her. She's happy. The husband ends up alone, not because she destroyed him, because he destroyed himself. It's kind of sad, Dad, Jacob said. The husband, I mean. You almost feel bad for him by the end. Do you? I'd asked. Jacob had thought about it. A little, but mostly I just feel bad for the wife, for all the years she wasted on him. I'd nodded, hadn't known what to say. The finale aired 2 nights ago. I didn't watch it, but the internet did, and the reactions were everywhere. Best finale of the year. Laura K. Ross is a genius. The husband got exactly what he deserved. This show should be required viewing for every man in America. I read the comments, all of them, every thread, every review, every tweet. And slowly, through all the anger and the judgment and the celebration of Laura's success, I started to understand something. This wasn't about revenge. It never was. It was about being seen. Laura had spent 12 years invisible to me. I'd looked at her every day and seen nothing, heard her speak and listened to nothing, watched her live and noticed nothing. So she'd created something I couldn't ignore, something that forced me, forced everyone to see her, to hear her, to understand what it felt like to be dismissed, belittled, erased. And in doing that, she'd become more visible than I'd ever been, more successful, more respected, more loved, while I became exactly what I'd always accused her of being, nothing. Epilogue. I saw Laura 3 weeks ago. Coffee shop in Silver Lake. She was with a group of people, her writer's room, I assumed. They were laughing, talking loudly, full of energy. She looked different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted. She saw me, smiled politely, waved. I waved back. Thought about going over. Thought about apologizing. Thought about saying everything I should have said 12 years ago. But I didn't. Because what would be the point? She doesn't need my apology. She doesn't need anything from me. She took the worst parts of our marriage and turned them into something brilliant. Something that made her rich, made her famous, and made her happy. I'm just a footnote now, a character in someone else's story, the villain who didn't even know he was the villain. And maybe that's what I deserve.